the interweb went out. That's why we got to get Elon Musk on this movement. I think they're fucking with us. They're not. Yeah.
Just goes to show you that
We had power outages.
you know, when we were talking about you leaving the job,
Yeah,
of
no.
just focusing
The anger.
everything on this, focusing all your energy on this.
Get that ticker going. That's a live hotline. That's a live hotline. So if you call that, we can actually pick it up ancient style, and then we can communicate with you and we can get you into the studio. So yeah, go ahead. So you were talking about this is indicative though. You were talking about the anger and
Because you was battling like Liberty Mutual. I'd come over here and we'd
well,
be
and
fucking
my
around with the new,
partner, my dumbass
yeah,
partner.
and we'd be fucking around with the new camera or the soundboard, and neither one of us are very tech savvy. And you'd be like, dude, I've been on the phone with State Farm all day doing all sorts of shit and blah, I don't want to say blah 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 because I know it probably wasn't just blah blah blah.
But I mean,
That
well, the blah
I
blah
don't want
blah
to
was happening
minimize
at
it
my
and stuff,
office
but
with my incompetent fucking.
and I just seemed,
Well, it goes even further than that. So, so I've been holding on to that because I built it, right? That's the thing we do where we cling on to things. Now I built it, and the truth is I had no like for all intents and purposes by anybody who knew me standards. What am I doing in the realm of construction, right? It wasn't my thing ever. I've been actor, writer, producer, entertainer. I've never really had a full time job to speak of. I've always done my own thing, and
what
it's
were
all
you doing before that?
before that entertainment. So the film incentives were here, and then
You started that back when I met you over at
yeah, so I did about a
the
year. So
was it
that's the funny thing
was
is
it there was were you doing it before I met you at what was it recovery
Dharma
no God it was before Dharma, what was that called? Recovery,
Refuge Recovery.
refuge
Yeah.
recovery,
And then they
yeah.
switched over.
So what were you doing before then?
I was selling. I sold for about a year, 2 years. Like I was acting though, acting, writing, producing, and I stayed in Michigan. I had just finished cut print, I think, and we were about to release that, and then the incentives came. So then everybody was coming to our neighborhood. So that's what I was doing full time, and I was doing a lot of shit with Mike Illich Jr.
Right on.
So when those incentives got pulled, so did my life basically. So I had this identity crisis where my entire life had been in the realm of I was also selling drugs. I was also like I had a nice from 2000 1999 till about
When did
2000.
you start United? How old
I
was
don't know,
it?
it was 2016 I think.
But I met you before then.
It wasn't too much before then because I only had 2 years of selling until I started United Restoration. So it was I did I was at American Dream Home. Didn't like them because they were a boiler room, and that's where I met Patrick, my the one who wound
Yeah.
up extorting. So I met him over there, and I was like, why do they screw people like this? That you know what I mean? There's so much money in this industry. Why do they do that? Like, why don't we just do it with integrity? And he was a veteran, so I bought into his whole veteran play. And thank you for your service, but I mean, he came out a piece of shit. I'm sorry, I'm not. Because what he did was he wound up use that veteran. That that's the only thing he had to cling on to as his to mask the fact that he didn't want to do anything. He just wanted to, and he was very vocal about. And I saw this from day one. Saw him. He said if he got rich, he would live on a boat, and just that's it. You know what I mean?
Right.
He wanted to do less, make more. But he was so passive about it, and he stayed in his lane, and he didn't bother what my responsibilities were, which were all finance and bearing the burden of the responsibility. He was supposed to handle production, and none of that happened. And the whole time, none of that happened. So I wind up covering for the fact that he has TBI, PTSD. So I was very in my codependence, very I had to save him, right? Which I couldn't do. And the whole time where I'm masking the fact that the reason we're not excelling is because he can't do his job and we had two people that are on staff still, $140,000 base salary, truck pay, fringes, all that shit. So it's about $225,000 that we spend a year just to cover his job, and then we would hire somebody. When we hired the second guy, he pawned more of his responsibilities off, and then eventually, and when it all fell apart, he came. He said, "Well, maybe it's your misuse of funds." You know what I mean? So anyway, long story short, I met him in 2014 at ADHI. ADHI screwed me once on my commissions, and I said, and I had already fought for this 90-year-old woman through my buddy Joe, who I work with now. I don't work for. I just feed him work
Right.
because I still do the insurance fighting because I love it. I love keeping them honest. But there was this 90-year-old woman with and I didn't know any better. I just knew you can't screw this lady over with auto owners. It took me 4 times, and I finally got them to buy her entire roof. They were trying to screw her on this little. It was 6,000. I think it was 12,000 altogether. This little fuck. It was a tiny roof in Roseville, and they were trying to only give her half a roof. Her deductible was 100. That's how long she'd been with the company. Her husband had just died of cancer, and they're trying to screw this lady, and that's where I dug in. Like, so I had this identity crisis where I went through extreme poverty right before that, where I couldn't pay my electric bills. I was giving my kids what we called superhero baths, where we would heat up buckets of water in the microwave because electric was going, but gas wasn't. Like, it was only a few months span, but it was like it was an eye opener to me because I couldn't let go of that identity. I didn't know how to do anything else, but I did. I knew how to do a lot of other things. I just couldn't say I was anything other than an actor. So, so through that experience of this is what you're talking about now, because that's what I'm going through now. Through that experience of poverty, I said, if I want to be a good father, I better fucking shake all attachment to any identity, and just so people were knocking at my door for this business that was booming, which was insurance restoration, and it wasn't the right person to be in business with, and obviously my partner wasn't either. But what it did was it allowed me to feel good about what I was doing, and it pulled me away from the movie shit, which was killing me because that's another industry where people like to take advantage of your time. They like to think you should do your work for free. You know what I mean? Because it's in
Right.
the realm of
Right.
art. So so when I was able to do that, I number one, it started pushing me towards this movement inadvertently because now I'm seeing how people get abused at that corporate level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm actually getting to see. I'm like, oh my fucking god! Like when I'm sitting in court and I'm looking at these documents and I'm seeing how amounts are redacted from these, and I realized that I'm digging into the research of the insurance industry. Oh my god, they have the third highest GDP behind Japan and U.S. Then the pandemic happens, and Rogan has I don't know if he still has it. I think they wiped. I don't know if they wiped these studies out, but the whole reason it became a shutdown was because of the insurance industry. If they would have let herd immunity transpire, it would have wiped out the insurance industry in America through all the claims, and you know what I mean. So I saw this study. I'm like, holy shit! And then in real time, I got to see how the insurance industry was behind it because Whitmer makes her order.
Right.
5 days later, Unity, our church, gets a letter from the insurance company saying we don't cover anything related to COVID. So what it did was it gave them the time to go and wipe all liability out with all of their policyholders for anything COVID related, and then it transpired from there. But when I saw the power that they had, I was like, "Fuck this shit." You know what I
You
mean?
know, this is a good segue into the phone conversation we had the other day. You know, I was asking you because we there's been a lot of shifting going on spiritually, consciousness, vibration, and I had told you that you know in your lifetime, you are going to have like trauma or whatever it may be, which fragments your timeline. This timeline, let's say you've lived 50 timelines, all right? And then each timeline you come you take on a life, you take on this life to learn what you didn't learn in your previous life,
Yeah.
you know. But while you're doing that, you learn what you needed to learn, but you accumulate another fragment or multiple fragments. So you keep reincarnating, learn all to get the fragments out of these timelines. And what's happening now, and there's a lot of people that have talked about this, and they probably do it a lot more eloquently than I will, um, is that healing modalities and people are really starting to take a look at themselves and understanding that this reality is an illusion on a lot of on a lot of different bases, but people have started to take the initiative to start healing traumas that came passed down through epigenetic timelines, past live stuff, and the things that are going on now. And what it's doing is it's collapsing timelines. So these fragments are getting healed.
Well, in truth, there is no time. There is no such thing as linear time.
True. So we'll just call it then what. So
It's the field of consciousness.
all my lives right now, all every life I've ever lived is all running concurrently.
Right.
And what's going on is that previous lifetimes are now collapsing
Right.
from all the work that I did healing myself, because like whether it's fear or trauma, you name it, whatever addiction, whatever falls in the category for you, pretty much, um grief, all that stuff. When when a collective of human beings, which let's just call it planet Earth, because we're all human beings here, when when a large amount of people, and I'm not just talking like America, North America, I'm talking the world, when a large amount of people on a planet
Collective
start
consciousness.
the collective consciousness, begin to heal themselves and heal their ancestral family tree and their timelines, the only thing that's natural that's going to happen is that these timelines are going to start to collapse.
Well, what they're doing, just to speak in terms of physics, quantum physics, is they're rewriting their energy signature. So basically, you can erase your history. Now we know consciously we're the only beings, sentient beings on that we know of in the universe, but there's probably more that have the ability to think into the future
Right.
and think about the past. And we can use those two things to try to ascertain some type of control in our now, right? So we can use them to make better decisions. We can't truly control what happens, but we can use it to choose how we respond to what we're given. So if we choose light, what we're doing is, and Greg Braden talks about this, you're actually rewriting your past woes. So
Are light and love the same thing?
they are. Well, it depends because love, the way it's spoken in human terms, is emotion. You know what I mean? And
But
it is an
from
English term.
from a frequency standpoint, from a vibrational standpoint.
I would say no because love's just a word. You know what I mean? So from there is light, and when and the Bible's written in English, and God don't speak English, right? So whatever God is, it emits frequency, and when we emote, we emit frequency, and that's the only truth. And Tesla said this. He said, if you want to understand God and you want to understand the way things work, then you need to start understanding things in terms of frequency. And in frequency, there are no words. So what the universe is it's this massive orchestra, right? And God is the composer, whatever God is, whatever this
Whatever name you give it.
whatever this eternal consciousness is, because it's pretty clear now, even in science, that consciousness came first. Neuroscientists don't like this, so they call it the hard problem. That's all consciousness is to them because they can't figure it out. So they just say that's the hard problem. We don't know what that is. But we're going to leave it alone for now because it doesn't fall into this amalgamation of all these different these chemicals and chemical reactions to one another, and it just doesn't make sense, right? So it's this thing that supersedes all knowledge, in all physical everything. So it's pretty clear that consciousness came first. Whatever consciousness is, the way we perceive it as humans, we couldn't begin to understand the mind of God. We can't even understand Einstein's fourth dimension for the most part, or space time. That's so hard for a human being to wrap their brain around, except for a person like Einstein or somebody who delves into it to even understand that it's like near impossible to conceive of what a mind of a conscious creator like God might be. And it could just be this eternal tapestry of phenomenon. That's what the best I've ever heard this realm described is through Rupert Spira in his book. It's something on consciousness. It's a mind and matter. It's Rupert Spira. I think he's only written it's essays on on the merging of mind and matter or something like that. I don't know. He said this is the realm of phenomena because we have all these. We are subatomic systems, right? But we're light particles at our true nature, and even in terms of quantum physics, we're light traveling at. So we're held in these bodies, and we're not stagnant, but we're in suspended animation, working against our true nature. So we pop in and out of this cosmic tapestry, and it's eternal. It just keeps going and it keeps going, and there's no rhyme or reason. There's no linear time. There's no before. There's no beginning. There's no end in terms of consciousness as you know it if you're a deep study. But there may be a beginning and end to this universe, but now they're saying, well, there's probably multiple universes into infinity, just popping in and out of this tapestry. So there's no linear time. And yeah, we're pulling in fragments from all. So we got this consciousness, which is it is the driving force of the universe. It's been proven that without consciousness, nothing, subatomic particles can't acquire a determined state. This table can't be here without consciousness to hold it together. So these are just wave functions floating into infinite space-time. I don't know if that answered your question, but I mean, it's I wanted to give it a scientific perspective from somebody who's
Yeah.
also an artist who believes in the beauty of these equations.
Right. No, because when I was saying it, I really when that we had that phone conversation, like I could feel it.
Yeah, me too.
Like I could feel like like
I was messing with you to see if you were responding to shit that I was feeling. Like I was saying, "Oh, you feel that?" In the text message the other day, I was going, "Do you feel it? Do you feel it right now?"
Well, yeah, I feel it.
So
Like
it's this
do
telepathy.
you feel that this is the only thing we should be doing?
So there's been signs. So last night I relinquished everything on the movie shit. I said one thing that I've done, which has it's been my detriment and it's been a detriment to the projects that I've worked on, is that I'm a nice person and I love what I do so much that I'll often give my time away in a world that doesn't believe in giving time away. So when I give my time away, I cheapen the project inadvertently. I don't mean to do that, and that's what happened with this company. Is that I gave so much time and so much effort to that company for everybody. There was a benefit for me too. My benefit had been achieved. Like my means to an end was done 2.5 years ago, and I knew it was time to exit, and I didn't. I stayed and I let this fucking disgruntled fucking bullshit brew up. And but I knew when it was my time to go. I knew when We the People was conceived and there was some action starting to be taken to it. I knew that it was time to go. I sat here with Ambra, and there was discontent there because I couldn't even focus on that because I was so discontent from everything else. And what she brought in another ray of light. It was dark too, but you know what I mean? Like in
Yeah.
the same way, this whole fucking thing with this business, this has been illuminating to the point where I'm on go now. Like now I'm illuminated and saying, and it sucks that there's collateral damage, right? There's like fuck my partner, he can fuck himself. You know what I mean? And I'm just being honest. I'm speaking in human terms because I'm in this world, but I'm not of it, right? So I'm gonna fucking say what the fuck I want in the way I, if you read the Nag Hammadi, Jesus was a fucking revolutionary, and that motherfucker talked shit. Yeah, I don't know if you've read it, but
I haven't read it,
I
but
mean, it's when you read it, you're like, "Oh shit, is that Jesus? What's she talking?" But anyway,
there's
so
like a gospel of Judas
well,
floating around somewhere,
Judas and
and
Isaiah are
Judas
big books in
and
there.
Judas said, you know, like Jesus, it's not in the Bible for a reason, but that Jesus had like some ego issues and stuff like that,
How could he not? He's human.
and who knows, I like
Read the Nag Hammadi, and I'm telling you, it sheds light. I'm like,
all
oh,
the
there's
all the
human
biblical
Jesus.
stuff. Like I'm starting to question now, just for the simple fact that I think we know that it's been changed. We know governments throughout time have changed that book to fit its purpose, and I think there's a lot of power in that book. you know Basic instructions before leaving earth, right?
Yeah,
Isn't that the acronym for the Bible? You notice how
I never heard that.
the B is
Yeah, no, I get
basic,
it. Basic inside. I never
like
heard it.
this is the basic book. It's your duty, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, to go out and seek beyond this. Go out and find beyond what lies in that
I'm
book.
just
I mean, there is power. I mean, the Book of Psalms. I went to the Detroit Urban Ministerial School. I needed to know what was in that book. I was sick of people quoting that book. You know,
I'm
I've
just
been
sharing
I've
our
been a
episode so you know.
I've been a member of AA for a long time, and you get these motherfuckers up in there quoting the Bible as if they know what they're talking about,
Dipping and dapping, don't know what's happening.
and at first you're like, "Ooh, wow," like they're quoting scripture. Let me tell you something. Just because a motherfucker quotes scripture doesn't mean he knows what it means. There's a lot of people that just quote it to look good, kind of like
Me, no.
Samuel L. Jackson in
But
Pulp Fiction.
but
He's like, I used to just quote that stuff because I thought it sounded cold hearted like a motherfucker, and that's what people do is they go around quoting scripture now, thinking like that's going to validate them or Im- impress the masses or get their point across. They do it
I will say
for
Samuel L.
selfish
Jackson.
reasons.
Well, that actually fit. Like
But then, I mean, you see the miracle, right? And you're
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
this motherfucker should be dead,
yeah, yeah. So I like when people apply it to real life. I don't like when they just quote it. What you're talking about,
right?
like when you're
And
just quoting it,
I mean,
thinking it
that's,
makes
I
you
mean,
better.
when I went to the Detroit Urban Ministerial School, it was interesting because, like, I was the lightest skinned person in there, and I came in there and I was like, I got no desire to be in the pulpit, absolutely none. And they were like, well, why are you here? I just want to know what's in this book. I was like, I see a lot of motherfuckers quoting this book and wielding it like it's a sword, using it like it's a shield. I just really want to know what's in it, and I want to know how to interpret it. And my pastor at the time, uh, may he rest in power, Reverend Charles Williams. He was my Old Testament and New Testament professor. And when we started, he was like, he was like, he was just a cool cat. He just was like, before we even get into this book, you go get yourself a metaphysical dictionary. And I was like, a what? He's like, a metaphysical dictionary. You're going to need one. You might as well get it now. And so I was like, all right, all right. And so I went, and like the metaphysical dictionary is like that. And I was looking through it and I was like, holy shit. And we went through that Old Testament in one semester, breaking down all the words in the Bible. There are a lot of words that have multiple meanings. He broke down the numerology. He broke down everything. And then I was like, well, why are people taking this book literally? Well, because they don't know no better.
Well, and because of it was a different time and place. Right now, we have this luxury right here. Back then,
R-
it was whatever the power, the masses that they fed to the masses, and then they would burn the books of anything that opposed it. So the King James version was it, and they were forced to take it literally or go to prison.
True, but I mean, look how many versions there are now. I think there's hundreds of different versions of the Bible.
And none of them were
There's
good.
there's like
I mean, honestly,
New Revised Version. There's King James Version. There's New English. There's Oxford. I can't tell you how many different
Here-
versions there are of the Bible,
here's what I'll say about all of
but
them.
they all butcher the words.
That's so all of them say there's this all-knowing, all-loving, all-powerful God. All of them, and then they all say He judges you, and they all call Him a He, and they all, you know what I mean? There's no metaphysics in it. It's you're going to burn in a lake of fire.
Check
All,
this out.
all of them.
Check this out. It's funny that you bring that up because like the last had a rough week, and so the last like 4 nights, man, I've been listening to Course of Miracles 45 minutes every night. And they say that that book was channeled by Jesus. And there's no biblical stuff, there's no biblical references whatsoever in A Course of Miracles. And they go on to say that what you need to understand in your mind is that we live in a sinless world, and that like God does not condemn anything
Right.
ever.
There is no wrong or right.
There is no wrong or right.
As I'm sitting here calling these guys shitbags, that's my true opinion. They're shitbags. But can I say that they're inherently wrong and I'm inherently right? No.
But at the end of the day, they're still your brothers.
Well, they're serving me. They're serving me so that I can, because what it's done is exactly to take it back, circle back to your question. It has pulled me out of my shell. Like there's a purpose that I knew that I had from the time I was a kid. When I had that out of body experience in second grade, when I learned of Martin Luther King's assassination, I didn't know what any of that fucking shit meant. I just knew there was a flash of white light, and all of a sudden I'm sitting next to my boy John Hopkins. He's like, "What the fuck is up with you, white boy?" I was like, "I don't know. I don't know. I didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't hear that Martin Luther King had died. Like I was literally teleported. Now that I think about it, like there was a flash of white light, and I heard little rufflings, and I saw this like frame of a face, and then I was back in the classroom as a kid. Never knew what the fuck that meant. I still don't know what it means. I'm just trying to make sense of it, and it only came back during the pandemic when I was part of Act Now, and we were talking about that happened as a result of the George Floyd
Right.
murder. So the group is it's pretty mixed with white and black, primarily white and black race people, and but more I would say there's more black than white Renaissance Unity people, and so I'm contemplating like now I'm going back into my childhood and I'm starting to dig out what racism is and what it means because I thought I knew everything and I didn't, and that kept coming back to me. I'm like fucking. You know what I mean? I thought I thought racism happened to me, but then I started.
I knew everything, but I didn't.
Yeah, I started learning about the system of racism. Then I learned how the word gets manipulated to cause us to fight. You know what I mean? Like by in the same way,
the divisiveness.
the word of the Bible gets manipulated to cause us to fight. To say, "Thou shalt not lay with another man." What? Like just the way that they've contorted what was once beautiful into the power structures do not give a fuck.
Well, I mean,
and that's what I'm dealing with on it. But I want to go back to what you asked me on this micro level. What these motherfuckers have given me is it's the gift of being able to, now it's been tumultuous. I've had to go back to.
Do you love them for giving you the gift?
Yeah, unconditionally. But I'm gonna tear them to pieces on the earth. I'm not, I'm not, and not in the way that, like, I've found a way to say, look, because I have the wherewithal and the power, and not power, but I have the ability to hold them accountable.
Yeah,
is my responsibility. But what does that do? Like, what's the benefit? Well, it's a public display in the microcosm of what happens to people on a daily fucking basis when AT&T wants to shut your fucking phone off. because or they want to attack your
Nah,
credit.
man, I know what you.
You
I
know
know
what I'm
what you've
saying?
been going through. I know what you've been going through.
But I'm saying like just the regular person on it. I've gone through the poverty thing. Like so now, am I in poverty? No. I went through this brief period where I knew I'd get back to what I owned and what I have and you know what I mean. So it was enough to wake me up to where I was like every day I want to kill these motherfuckers. But I knew I didn't really want to kill them because they would have been dead. Like you know what I mean? Like that. But I knew I had to go through that fucking that nightly battle of them taking food off my kids' plate temporarily, and me having to look at my daughter and say, "Well, I don't have money for that field trip." It's been a long time since some shit, but that was beneficial. Does that mean that this is what spiritual people I think do a lot because they don't like conflict? Nobody likes conflict. That's a codependent thing. Conflict is important for you to grow. So me, I could have fell back into my growth. I'm feeling pretty good now. I'm still pissed, but it's getting more joyful, and I'm get now the dismantling of them is getting more playful, and I just get to sit and watch and because I know the benefit is for their own good, right, and for my own good, and they're going to need to go through what I had to go through, and blah blah blah. However, karma sees it, right, but I could quickly absolve myself from the responsibility of doing what I feel I'm charged with doing. And what I'm charged with doing is on the movement on the grand scale, holding these motherfuckers accountable that have been
Right.
taken from us since me and you were born. So I get the beauty now to pull these fuckers into the public eye and use my everything that I've compiled, whatever charisma I have, whatever connections I have, whatever humor I can pull into it, whatever I can do to make this kind of entertaining to make people watch, I now have the luxury of doing that with them who I can easily beat. You know what I mean? Now, if I'm taking on big insurance, that's a long fight.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
long fight, and people have watched me do it, and I put the system in place for that company to do it, which they're failing miserably at. But it's not something you get to see visibly. This I get to make a show of.
Well, the Course in Miracles, and I've gone through the book a ton of times, and I haven't this. I haven't practiced it enough so that it's like part of the way that I operate. I just haven't got there yet, but they go into a lot of different stuff. When it comes to the guilt, shame, anger, all these things, like those things will be ways to kind of create a way for you to believe that like you're separate from God.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing is like there was an exercise in the workbook. I want to. I don't know where it is in the book because I'm doing everything on audiobook, but it's like track like 31 or 32, and they talk about seeing God in everything.
Yeah.
All the time. So, you do it in 5-minute increments, and they say like do it with your eyes closed first. Close your eyes, like lay down, and just picture everything. Picture you seeing everything. Picture God in everything, in all your relationships, in everything, and work that for like 5 minutes. Then when you do it throughout the day, like when you're just driving on the freeway, picture seeing God in everything. That pretty soon, what you come to realize is like we're just all in God.
Well, and
And it's those
God
like,
is all
like
in us.
if I can see that God is in everything, and like inside and outside, right? The power of God lies within. But if I manifest my reality to the point where I'm seeing God in everything on the outside, now that Chevy Tahoe that's driving next to me going down 75,
That's me.
people in that car may not be thinking the same thing,
They're living in a different universe.
and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I'm still seeing them in God.
Well, and to bring it back to metaphysics, Galen McDowell dropped this. This is one of the most profound things I heard him say. Well, it was very simple. Is what he said is, just to break it down into elements. God is wood. That's what that's what God is. God is wood. And he was standing behind a podium. He said, and this podium is made of wood. We're the podium. So so we don't exist without the element of God, right? Consciousness, whatever consciousness is, that's in all of us. There's no separation from the fact that even if you think of the Big Bang, right? The Big Bang, we were all this one singularity at one point. So there's no separation whatsoever. We are this one being, whatever the fuck you want to call it. We're that. There's no separation. You know what I mean? So metaphysically, and in terms of earthly physics, according to the laws of our physics, there's only one. And for us to think any different, so when I call them motherfuckers, I know there's motherfucker in me. I know there's shitbag in me,
All reflections of God.
but I have overcome shitbagness for the most part, not to the point to where I can't use it as a shield against shitbags, right? But I do, at least I can recognize that.
Wouldn't it be great to think that, how we were talking about all the timelines?
Yeah.
What happens if all of our timelines that are healing on their own?
Hmm. Well, nothing heals on its own.
Right.
Right.
But let's just say that in the space that lies between us, that's in the unseen, like, what happens if, like, all of our higher selves in different timelines were co-creating with each other without us physically ever interacting,
They are.
co-creating the healing of the planet.
So that's the radical forgiveness. So what I realize is me and Ambra, so to speak, love her to death. Can't be with her. You know what I mean? And it's the first time I've ever been in a position in a relationship where I actually wanted the person that I had to walk away from. Right? We had to walk away from each other, and it wasn't good terms, um, because there were things that she would have liked me to maybe have been not so in. When I said truth and growth were my only things, I meant it. You know what I mean? So there was very little give that I had a lot of give, but just not, it wasn't going to go away. Like it was always going to keep playing. And she couldn't see past her own subconscious, which I possessed myself, so I could see them clearly in her. And I couldn't make her see them, and it's not my job to. But I really wanted to make her because I wanted to keep her. You know what I mean? Selfishly. So it just couldn't be what was happening at this beautiful level, and she's intuitively connected in a way that I'm not, because I would go into my ketamine meditations. She'd be there and she'd see some of the same shit, and she'd share that without any chemical, you know what I mean? Because I can do it too when I go into meditation. If I go into the float tank, I can get to that place, and she would play in that space. So she was spiritually connected in a way that I wasn't, and I wanted, we called ourselves multidimensional alchemists. We would bring that shit back, and it just didn't mesh with us. We were toxic. We were going to be toxic for each other if we stayed in the same space. That's not how I wanted it to turn out. It's not how she wanted it to turn out. But there was this beautiful thing. That's what this was for. I was listening to Dave Matthews, The Space Between. You just talked about the space between on repeat this morning, just knowing, like this deep knowing that we weren't going to last. Like and I told her I had a dream where I don't think you last very long if you stay with me. You know what I mean? I said, I think I might be heading down a path where I die. And this is what I keep conceiving of. That was that Martin Luther King thing. I think but it may not be that. There's this death that has to occur, which may have just happened, before I can actually be there in this kind of way for anybody else. And for her too. She needed it too. So our souls did this dance that, per human, um, how we would perceive it as, well, that's tragic, but it wasn't. It was beautiful. And this infinity thing was, it opened up infinity. I knew through her that, and I told her when I met her, I said, this is where I'm weakest in intimate love, where I'm completely vulnerable and exposed. This is where I break down with my kids. I break down because they have they have the power to trample me, and my it's not me, my fucking ego, right? My ego in the last stronghold. So I said, this is my last frontier, and I thought maybe that meant we were going to stay together because I told her. That's not what it meant. It just meant I was being forthright, and this right here said when I met her, it opened up infinity to me, whatever infinity is. But I didn't know it was going to be so fucking hard, right? And I didn't know that I had what was going on, and she told me what was coming, and I was like, yeah, whatever, you know what I mean? And it came, and now I'm on the. It's beautiful because it happened. Now I can thank them, I can radically forgive them, and I can say thank you because I didn't have my ego wasn't going to let me leave that money. You know what I mean? Wasn't going to let me leave that comfort when I knew that I had this thing right here with us that was far more important than anything I was doing over there. I had already done my work with the insurance companies. I knew how to beat these motherfuckers, and I knew how to take it into a movement to where we could be successful and we could possibly because. And we're going to get to the Tesla Edison Crossroads because the Tesla Edison Crossroads is now. There isn't a motherfucker. This is why I've been real disappointed with people in our spiritual community because there isn't a motherfucking thing that you can be doing right now that's more important than foregoing certain Armageddon. And I'm just using biblical terms, but doomsday. There's people out there predicting doomsday, all this other shit, conspiracy theories. I don't spend a whole lot of time with those, but they're there for a reason. And the people who choose to spend a lot of time in that space, I don't see them doing what we can actually do to stop what is necessary to prevent that doomsday. Now, the Tesla Edison's Crossroad is when Tesla had created the coil, he knew he could give energy to the world for free. And that's what the invention of the coil was for. Edison stole that shit from him and turned it into power for profit. We live in the world that Edison created to where the power structures, the greed structures, and it wasn't greed so much back then. It was just we're in a capitalist society, right? So they grabbed a hold of this, and we had to pay for utilities. We had to pay for shit that was kind of by the earth and by the heavens bestowed upon us to use. We're here right now with AI. That's where we are. If we don't harness the power of AI, which is our fucking birthright, why is it our birthright? It's an extension of us. That's all it is. It's nothing more, nothing less. It's a fucking extension of us. So if we don't harness our identities, which they've already stolen, that's life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. They've taken that and they've been data mining our shit for decades now, making billions and billions and getting stronger and stronger so they can harness the power of AI. Once they harness the power of AI for profit, we're fucking done. It's dystopia. It's everything we've manifested in our sci-fi movies. That's what happens next. So if this is to our spiritual community, anybody who might be watching, if you're not doing anything to offset them taking control of AI, you're not doing your fucking spiritual duty. You might be on a small level, but if you're not even paying attention to this, because there's some that's not. There's people in our
Just
community.
remember, there are people that are doing a lot, doing it in the shadow.
Well, and that's fine. But I'm talking about the people that talk, right? I'm talking about the people that that project out that everybody else needs to be doing more. But when they get presented with something as massive as this, they don't even want to chime in. It gets scary for them. And I'm not bashing anybody in particular. I'm just saying I've noticed a lot of crickets when it comes time to talk to people. When it comes time to talk about the big, I learned in boot camp something called putting out small fires. This is what humans do. We ignore the big fire that's way over there, and we go to these little fires because we know we can put them out. Meanwhile, we got this raging fire burning in the background. It's kind of like the dysfunctional family sweeps it under the rug, right? Keeps piling. Eventually, you're going to bump right into that shit. You're going to have to deal with it, but now it's massive. So we've had this big forest fire burning in the background with the powers that be taking away our identity, using it for their own profit, and then harnessing the power of AI, which is part of the singularity. It's not going anywhere. It's consciousness, ours. And we've called it artificial, which is kind of fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, it's us, motherfucker. Why are you calling that fake? Because it's become a dumping ground for it's our original sin, right? So now we get to pawn all of our bad shit onto AI, right? Like we don't have to take responsibility. Oh, it's AI. AI is going to end the world. No, motherfucker, you're ending the world. That's you. You're doing that shit, and we're all participating by not stopping these motherfuckers. When we have somebody like Marianne Williamson that's running for president, who could really use, and we're not supporting any one campaign. I'm using her in particular because they bashed her as woo woo. So,
Right.
Any one of these candidates that come out and they say, I understand AI, the sky is not falling. Here's what we can do. And through our guy Kent, we kind of understand it. Like, so if you're not paying attention to what we're doing and you know us, you're not paying attention to fucking anything. You're just listening to bullshit. And I'm
Well, you
just
got
gonna
to get
draw
them
that
off the
line.
hamster wheel. I mean, I think that's what
True.
I think that's what United Restoration.
It was a hamster wheel.
It was a hamster wheel.
2.5 years ago, it became the hamster wheel.
Right. And
Yeah.
and God was like,
Get the
I
fuck
don't
off.
really want you on the hamster wheel no more.
And then
you
finally
know?
he said, get off, motherfucker. Go suffer a little bit.
I mean, that's what it felt like when I was, I was working for a weed agency, when I was in Colorado, because I was like, well, I need to be working. That's always been my thing. Well, you need to be working. You need to have money coming in.
Yeah.
If you don't have money coming in, you have money going out.
Yeah.
All that.
Which is true. To a certain
Look, I
extent.
love my dad, but he would always drive in a lot of things where, like, dude, if you're not working, you have money going out and it's not coming in, and what are you going to do, and blah, 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 blah. And then, like, all of a sudden, like, I'd pick up some side work and I would go pay all my bills and I'd have a little left over, and I'm like, well, we're good, and he drove in the fact that, like, you need to be working, and you need to have 35 hours, and you need to make sure that you got health insurance. If you don't have health insurance,
where's your nest egg?
I know, like, and
which it's not bad advice.
it's not bad advice.
It's not the be all end all.
But it's just not how I live, and and I was working for the temp agency, and I was going to work, and, like, I was going from farm to farm to farm, and I mean, it was like a factory type job. It was literally like a factory type job, and I give a lot of credit to a lot of people who go into the factory every day, lunch paneling it and shit, and clocking in and working, 8, 10, 12 hours and then clocking out. But I could just hear, like, the God voice be like, I don't really want you doing this shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? You
I
mean
heard
farming?
it all the time.
You like farming? No, it's not farming, Sean. Like, if you were to farm, I'd want you to farm for yourself. I don't want you working for anyone anymore. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. What the fuck? And then, and the voice would, I'll be driving down 36 back to Boulder, and I'd be like, what? Well, I would always ask, like, well, what does that look like? I don't know what that looks like, God. And, it was like, you're not supposed to know what it looks like. I wanted you to know what it looked like. Then, what's the fun in that for me?
Well, I don't know if he's having fun. Or she, whatever.
Right. And so it was a very, tricky time, because, like, man, like, at the end, I remember at the end of one of the conversations, I just remember, like, I don't need people getting wealthy off your efforts anymore.
Or what you're doing is you're contributing to. So what they leveraged at URDS was my integrity. I cared about the employees, codependently even. I cared about them. They didn't give a fuck about me. And it's not even that they gave a fuck about me. They cared. They're so scared of losing the little scraps that they're given that that you've been acclimated in the system to keep on that fucking wheel. So what did they do? Well, when I stepped away, I gave them the ability to do this because I tried to do it with integrity. And then they breached the contract. And then that was God saying, I said, get the fuck off the hamster wheel, motherfucker. Why would you offer to give them work? Why would you offer to pull them out of debt still? That's what I did. Like, thinking I'm doing the right thing, right? So he said, no. I said, you break, or he, she, whatever. Don't take offense, whoever, whatever. God, fucking,
Yeah. Whatever word you use
yeah,
is what you use.
well,
We're just simplifying it.
I call him homie, and me and my relationship with God is like, I'm gonna smack you in your fucking nuts if you take on male form when I see you like that. But it's all in good fun, you know what I mean?
Right.
But that's my relationship with God, whatever God is, and I wherever I hope he does. Like I hope it's male form because I owe him a nut graze like a motherfucker for some of this shit. But I have a sense of humor about it. But it was me, like I was really trying to, I was clinging and I didn't realize that I was clinging. I thought I had it built in my head that no, this is integrity. You're trying to, no, they fucked you. Just they told you who they are. Go get the fuck out. Like let it be what it's going to be. And I could have foregone some of this, but I needed all of this because if it weren't for this, then I wouldn't have been able to break through the ego to be able to see clearly in what I was being given. That's the radical forgiveness. Can I sit there and say, I love you guys. Thank you for what you've given me? Absolutely. I do it right now. That doesn't mean I'm not going to hold you accountable for what you did. But now it's going to be more at my leisure, right? It's not going to be at the detriment. I'm still blowing up like with the kids and shit. I'm still, I'm still having to work myself back down. Me and my boy are getting into the gym, and I'm going to get back into my meditation. I neglected all of that through the pandemic on that wheel that you saw me on. And this was the way of the universe to say, look, dummy, this is my relationship. I don't really mean dummy. Look, you have between us, the resources that we have in this movement, it's not normal. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
what we've accumulated and the people that we've met through the different, even tumultuous, they're like Amber, she's the one who introduced me to Sean, or not Sean, but Kent. What I might have my issues with like AA, not completely. I appreciate it, but that's where I met you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Right.
and had I not delved into it for that brief space and time, Katie wouldn't have introduced me to you, and I wouldn't have. You know what I mean? So, like, there's all these things that happen, and I can complain about them until I'm blue in the face, but I don't, because the beauty that I extract is far, it pays dividends. So that doesn't mean that if somebody's still infringing that they're allowed to do that. So I have a double responsibility here. Yeah, get off that fucking wheel and get completely off it, but use I've given you a I've given you a launch pad.
Right.
That's what they
Right.
gave us. Like what they don't know, like what the beauty, we got a public launch pad because people will gravitate towards this kind of negativity, right? I know what the fuck I'm doing. Like I know people like to see people going bleh, and I'm keeping it light on the inside, but I know that we can do sound bites. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like when
Right.
it's
Right.
time to start dropping those motherfuckers, they've given us a launch pad for this movement that we couldn't have created for ourselves. It's a fucking beautiful thing. And now I'm starting to see the financial thing dissipate and whatever. And it's like with the truck. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, you thought I needed that truck, didn't you, motherfucker? No, now you're going to get billed for leaving it there and telling me to pick it up. You know what I mean? Like that's a luxury I have now. And now it's becoming kind of more of a comical light thing, even though I'm still suffering to a certain degree, but not really. Like now the lights, it's clear. Like sitting here right now, I'm energized like I haven't been in weeks. And I didn't know that I would be. You know what I mean?
You never know.
No, but hey, anyway.
When you're in it, you're in it.
And I wanted to bring it back full circle to what you said. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's what the fuck was happening. And my ass was, I don't want to say I was missing the signs. It happened perfectly. Like every fucking thing that I've gone through. And I don't know what I still got coming down the pipeline, but I know whatever it is, it's pointing in this direction. And I realized the other day when I sent a message out to some of the leaders over at our community, I said, and I wanted to hear, they don't even read the fucking text. You know what I mean? And if they do read the text for whatever reason, they don't feel compelled to respond. One person did, and he's one of our leaders right now in the county. Um, in a real political, judicial type of way, and I was like, well, that's impressive, and also thank you. But know that it's not bashing what you're doing. You know what I mean? But um,
What I think you're trying to say is that at this juncture, there is a sense of urgency.
there's urgency in a spiritual way. So look, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I know that I can't make it happen. But there is a sense of urgency in that AI is happening right now. the powers that be, you can see with these chatbots, or
Oh yeah, yeah.
you can see with you got these new identifiers, right?
Didn't
That
Derek Denham say that AI was writing songs and shit?
what's that? Yeah. So here's the thing.
We
Here's the
had
thing.
Derek on a few weeks ago. He said AI is writing songs better than most
Poem-
songwriters.
Poems,
Yeah.
but not better. I wouldn't say better, but what it's doing, it just got kicked out of the. There was this it's what do you call it? The where you don't eat, you not, what is it called?
What?
When you're real skinny, you fuck. What's that? The eating disorder.
Bulimia?
Yeah. So there's an eating disorder group, and this chatbot. So they had the chatbot as part of its website, and people were asking for advice from the chatbot. The chatbot's like, well, you just got to watch your calories, and you got to. It's giving all this advice on how to actually lose weight to people with eating disorders. So they had to eliminate the fucking chatbot from the website. But so that's the kind of thing that's going to happen now. When you're sitting on a phone call with a corporation that don't give a fuck about you now, because if you press 0 a bunch of times back in the day, it would take you to a human.
Yeah,
now it hangs up on you. Like, what
yeah.
the fuck? You just hung. You know what I mean? That shit enrages
You
me.
have to listen to the prompts. You know, you can't just press 0 no more.
No, listen, our prompts have changed, and you listen to every fucking thing we say you listen to. And then when you get to the end of it, you're going to find out you still can't talk to a human. Oh, sorry, we're after hours. Fuck you. They do that because we don't make them pander to us anymore. They pander to these fucking politicians that are part of the 1%. That's what we, the people, stops. So anyway, I'm feeling like Bernie fucking Sanders, throwing my hands all around, but I see why he's so passionate, because it's like he's connecting dots in the fucking sky when he's, you know what I mean?
You
like,
been watching any of his stuff?
I always watch Bernie. Yeah,
he's going hard right now. He hasn't even said he was running.
and I don't know that he will,
he's going hard like a motherfucker. Like,
that's why I like him, because it shows that's just who he is. You know, you call Bernie what the fuck you want, but with nothing seemingly for him to gain other than leaving with some kind of legacy that he's changed things. I think he knows now that two-party system, you know what I mean? Like, he's been quashed by it
well,
twice.
I mean, he ran as an independent 2 terms ago, and I mean, he sounded great, and he debated very well. Like, I mean, he was killing it in the debates.
He'll kill anybody that goes.
But you know, he ran under like an independent,
got quashed.
and got quashed. They're like, man, no third party candidates ever gonna win here in America.
And what
fuck you.
And what he is he's a seasoned politician. So he uses language that he feels is going to attract that broad base.
And then that's what happened in 2016, was that he ran on the Democratic ticket.
Yeah.
And he beat, like, people were like, do not give Hillary the nod.
Yeah.
Do not give Hillary the nod. And they gave her the nod
and lost.
And
well,
you know,
to what Bernie was doing is similar to what Trump was doing, because I don't think Bernie believed in a lot of what he was saying. It just, he knew that he needed support from that money base. So he would say certain things that not it ignited that base to support him. But what it also did is people that voted for Trump, it alienated them because they didn't like hearing it.
True, but I'll tell you, like, Bernie, he's been in politics a long time. And so he's got to see.
Walked with Martin Luther King.
He's got to see a lot of it. And he's like, you know, big business and the government are in the cahoots to fuck you over and take your money and keep you on the hamster wheel and deprive you of pretty much everything. And like, he kept saying it over the span of his lifetime in politics. And look at us now. Like, you got no middle class. I don't need,
it's gonna be gone.
Like, I mean, I think it's gone, really. I think whatever middle class you want to say, like, it's check to check.
It is. I was just looking at I'm making sure.
And I just think that he, I watched
86%. So that's the percent.
86% is check to check.
In America.
The
fucking richest, supposedly wealthiest country on the face of the planet, 86% with 6,000% markups in our fucking meds for grandma. That's what the fuck we live in. That's what you go into work. And I'm not saying quit your fucking job, but there comes a point where, okay, I know rich people, very rich people that don't like this shit. And they're scared that the poor people, quote unquote, or the people who live paycheck to paycheck are coming for their shit because of the way everything's phrased in the two-party system. It's either if you're greedy, like I didn't know that greed was a triggering word. Like for my one of my investors, Dominic, he's like, well, maybe take greed. He's one of the people that helped me pacify the language to where we the people is where it is, because he said, well, that's triggering because and I didn't think about it, but like if you're a person with money that are that well-to-do,
They get triggered by
e-
the word greedy.
even a white person in America, you get triggered by racism. You get you're supposed to be, because that's how they lay the shit out, right?
Ah,
So if you're not a racist white person with a lot of money, you immediately get triggered by those words and the way they're perpetuated by the fucking two-party system, because there's no gray area for you to. Nobody speaks there, right? On a grand scale. So if they're in their little bubble anyway, and they really want to reach out and not be in that bubble, they confine themselves deeper and deeper into the bubble, kind of like people that are in extreme poverty do. They're in their bubble, so now they don't even know, they don't have access to those people to even have conversations.
right.
That's what something like this does. And that's by the grace of God, I grew up poor like that amongst black people as a white kid. And then I got to go out into the world, and like I said, I always say I play white. You know what I mean? I knew there was a benefit to my whiteness. So dude, there's this did you watch the Pac documentary?
No.
It was amazing. So I've always had this symbiotic relationship with Tupac. And I realized I fight the same thing the Panthers do. You know what I mean? Like I'm all for, but I'm not for a power flip. I'm for equanimity, and I think black people are for the most part too. Like they're not trying. Some black people do want a power flip, right? Some people want to flip it. The people at Unity, they want equanimity. They would just as easily love to acclimate to this culture, be given their reparations and whatever that is, a boost in business, whatever, and just get a chance to be on the same even ground that white people are. And people don't understand what white privilege means. And I understand it when I watch the Pac documentary. I watch them going through similar things. Everyone's against me now at the company I built, which I don't give a shit about. What I have the luxury of doing is writing their fucking attorneys. I can write judges. I can talk shit like that nobody else can, because I'm intelligent and I'm white, and because I look like the system, they can't do a fucking thing. So,
Right.
so these motherfuckers are over there going, is he? When the cop showed up in my house the other day because they wanted to call in harassment charges for my reactions to their crimes, we're laughing. And I'm like, should I call them a wambulance? You know what I mean? I was like, when you go back there, ask them if they want some cries to go with those shakes. You know what I mean? I'm laughing with the cops. I'm like, because they're like, well, you know what it infers, right? I'm like, yeah, I know what it infers. I'm like, but does it say that? They're like, no, it doesn't. Imagine being a black man and saying some of the shit that I say, which is, it's not threatening. It's full disclosure.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so I'm looking at Pac, who died at 25. I've been able to fight a similar fight from a white person's angle, because I really care about equality, equanimity. Like I care about. That's why SSI matters to me. That's why, like you said, what the fuck are you doing? Just taking all that on your shoulders when you already learned the fight. Now go put it somewhere where it matters. Like, what do you I I was confused too, because I'm sitting here and I'm walking into this, which excites me, frustrated. For what? For somebody who eventually fucking tried to accuse me of misusing funds for $100,000 surplus that he killed because of him trying to play boss man. You know what I mean? Like that whole time, I was fighting to save what he had lost. That was the stress that I was carrying.
And then you found out.
And then the accusation got dropped in the meeting where it was where he had nowhere to hide anymore. Like it was like, no, it was because you ordered these materials. They weren't earmarked. You were trying to play boss man. You decided not to get approval from the only person who watches the money, and you killed our first $100,000 surplus that we ever had in the history of the company. But we'll be okay. Well, maybe it's because of your misuse of funds. Then I found out. You know what I mean? So you're
Right.
coming in seeing me stressing over how am I going to save this company? And it happened multiple fucking times throughout the life of the company where I had to use my resources. Then they leveraged the guy that I had put his credit on the line for our materials to save the company. They leveraged him as a means to steal the company from me. They said, we're not going to pay him. You know what I mean? That was part of, and the employees are just going to lose their jobs. One day, the fucking accountant calls and says, all right, everybody go home. He knew what that was going to do to me. So that's an Amber thing. Some shit she signed me up for. Anyway, um, so God's always talking. When you talk about God,
Don't
and
you think he
everything,
just meant I don't know, like I think now is just the time to like let all the old go.
yeah, every fucking that's what I did with the movies. I text my investors and I said, life goes on is mine. I own almost all of that with Jacob and Don, but for the most part, I make the decisions. And we got this thing going where hopefully Jelly Roll comes onto it. I'm gonna say it in public because I don't care. Because I do believe that he's part and parcel to this whole thing, and I hope that he does come onto the deal. And if he does, then it's going to make this a beautiful thing for me to where we can his whole audience is recovery. You know
Right,
what I mean?
right.
What happened with his mom? So I've been holding on to the rights for this for I didn't really know why. Like it's the one movie where I'm always getting asked, "Hey, can I get a copy? Can I get a copy?" And I haven't done anything. I haven't made any moves with distribution. So that one is my baby. And a therapist told me, they're like, "Do you know what you wrote in that movie?" When this is like 7 years after. I'm like, "Yeah, it was about addiction. A friend of mine died, and blah blah blah." And I'm giving the cover story, right?
Right.
She said, "No." She said that was a death note to your ego. She's like, "Do you name every?" I said, "No, it wasn't. It was about this, this, and this." And I'm trying to cover because I didn't mean to do that,
Right.
and I didn't want to admit that I did that. So she said, "Well, let me ask you this: Do you keep your character's name Vince in everything you write?" Mic drop. I was like, "Fuck." I was like, "No." She's like, "Why'd you do it in this one?" And then why did it end the way it did? I was like, "Fuck off." You know what I mean? I was like, "Fuck," because it was true, because that's what it was. It was a fucking. I had written a death note to my ego, and now it's sitting here. And then we got this guy, fucking Jelly, with over 1 billion fucking views, who just signed the best deal in Nashville, selling out arenas, and half the world still don't even know who he is. And he was on Rogan, and he said, what I realized, and this was powerful for us and for a lot of people watching. He said, what I realized is I had been writing the right songs this whole time, but I was playing the wrong chords. I was like, oh fuck, because that's what my character in Life Goes On does. That's what we do. And when we're in the throes of addiction or compulsion or whatever, we're underneath what we're these fuckers who did this shit. They're really
But
serving the universe by putting me in a position to
but playing the wrong chords can be a lot of shit.
playing the wrong chords. Eventually, someone's going to correct you.
Playing
Hopefully,
the wrong chords could be living on the hamster wheel.
that's what it is. That's exactly what it's a lot of. It's what most people do. Most people are playing the wrong chords. We have this innate goodness, this innate knowing, right? We all need to remember how to get back to ourselves. So usually when we have an epiphany, it's not like we learned something. It's like what? Like we remembered. Oh, why didn't I? It's always like, oh, well, I should have known that. And then it becomes second nature. That's because we're playing the wrong chords. Like that's why it was so profound when he said that. I'm like, motherfucker, that everybody's playing the wrong chords. And what we're trying to do is get in tune with this infinite symphony, which is the universe where
Right.
God is the fucking the conductor up there conducting. We just can't see it because the ego, like you said, has this feeling like we're disconnected. So we choose the illusion of the ego, and through that we shield ourselves. We'll never be disconnected because Deepak Chopra made this fucking great analogy where he said we're the yo-yo, and there's the ground here, and this is down here the earth, and God is the hand, right? And God, flings us down to the earth.
Going up and down.
That string is never disconnected. We might stay down there and spin, for a little bit. He might do some tricks with us, but we're never disconnected from source ever. We just think we are.
Right.
That was one of the more profound things that I heard Deepak say. But anyway, I've been blabbing for fucking forever because I'm fired up by the subject.
I know we covered a lot.
We have covered a lot, and we got through our technical difficulties, and we didn't have to use the bat phone. We didn't have to use the bat phone. You're about to leave, aren't you?
Yeah.
To you got Colorado.
Colorado, and I'll be back a week from Monday. I'll leave on Wednesday,
Okay.
and then we'll get another episode going.
This line is going to always act. If you want, I mean, if you're out there, you can access this. If you feel like drop, if it's in your heart and you want to drop something, you're out. I don't know if you're going to be working in the weed fields or you know what I mean. Like,
I ain't working shit.
so whatever you're doing, if you want to, if you're out there with Jake or somebody like that, or
No,
whatever,
I ain't doing none of that, man.
All
This one, I'll be living low key in Denver, just house sitting, man. And I'm gonna go try to do the Manitou Incline, I think. And that's like I talked about it before, like one of my boys was like, dude, we should go do that. And we never did it. And then I don't know, man. I just felt like I've talked to people who've done it and they're like, dude, it's just like it's like walking up the stairs for an hour and a half. And it's like right up a mountain.
yeah.
And I was like, shit. And I don't know. It's been on the list. I don't know how much more. I don't know how many more Colorado trips I got and stuff. Like I'm really, rooting down here in Detroit, and I don't know, man. Like I was like, it was weird because like, I was meditating the other day and like, like I heard this voice be like, man, you gotta do a winter in Michigan. You haven't done one in a while because I usually jet,
Yeah.
like the last 3 years I've taken off, like pretty close after Christmas. I'm like, nah, I'm out, you know, and so I don't know, but I'm gonna make the best of this trip, and
Well, if something pops up and you want to hop, you know how to hop on. You can hop on anywhere and do an impromptu. Like that last one I did just by myself. I felt it. I came in here. I said, "Hey,
did you hop in through StreamYard?
StreamYard?" Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's and it got a great response. It got and we don't do any of this for responses and likes and whatever.
This is a
there's-
movement. This is a movement. This isn't,
and it's moving.
you know.
That's the beauty of it is it's been moving. Like it's moved. It's progressed ever since we started talking about it. It's never taken a backslide. Like we might not have the developer yet. We might have that soon. In due
Who
time.
knows? Who knows?
In due time. Whenever it happens, it happens. But it's moved, and that's what movements are. And that's something that people don't realize. Is like it's kind of like with celebrity. You think the overnight celebrity? There's no overnight celebrity, motherfucker. Like you might get some that YouTube person that just took off. Well, they had 1 billion fucking views. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
So there's always this this movement. A movement usually starts with two people. There's one person who thinks blah 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 blah, and then the second person says and then from that people start to circle if it's worth a damn.
Right.
Even when it's not. You know what I mean?
Right.
Look at what Hitler did. Hitler fucking got people to murder people. Like, if you can do that, we can do this. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, if that motherfucker can get people to kill people in cold blood, we can do this. I hope. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I fucking hope. If not, then maybe I'm not going to say he had it right, but maybe that's where we're going to the Hitler in the sky, the concentration camp in the sky. That's where humanity's going. Who fucking knows? I don't know. I prefer not to believe that, but
Run by AI.
run by AI. Exactly. That I mean, what the fuck else? AI would be much shrewder than Hitler was, wouldn't it? If it's a for-profit fucking machine that discounts all human existence, which is what these fuckers do. They live in a spreadsheet so that at the microcosm level, they're valuable people to fight in public. But if that's all you do is live by a spreadsheet and by logistics, and you discount the human condition, we're going to die.
Yeah.
We have to, so let's not fucking do that. Sign the ticker, WTP.online. It's been scrolling down there at the bottom. I don't even know who's watching. I can't tell. But we always get our views after the fact. So, and this one, it fucked up. So the first part of this was really the bonus footage,
Yeah,
but it has all of our episode information. I think we can add this later. Whatever. We'll figure it out. People always find us. Join the fucking movement. Like it's inconsequential. It's not, because if you sign it, it shows your ownership. The consequence is positive for you, no matter who the fuck you are, because it shows you immediately what you own of this economy. That's just valuable information,
Right.
no matter what. So whether we get to 33 million or not, I believe we do, but whether we do or not, it's why would you not want to know that? And being in a community of people who would know how to leverage that for our betterment, rather than them leveraging it for their betterment. This is not a coup. This is not a violent movement. We're nonviolent. I might have to knock some fuckers' heads in. I hope not. I hope not. But, and I've said that before jokingly, but like I've really felt it. Like, do I have to fuck these guys? But what is that going to do? Like, it does nothing.
Love and compassion, Vince.
Yeah, motherfucker.
All right. Till next time.
Till next time. Sign the fucking ticker. WTP.online. Oh, Jason, what's happening, man? And this hotline down at the bottom, it's live all the time. You can call it whenever you want. We won't always be manning it. You can send a text message if you're having an issue, if you have a topic that you'd like to discuss. Use that. It's always live, always active. We're gonna have it scrolling when we do the show. We're gonna try to get more interactive with our people, and let's fucking change this thing. Let's change it. Tesla, Edison, Crossroads. Let's not give it to the Edisons of the world, right? Let's not give them AI for profit. Let's just not. All right, brother.
All right, man.
It's been real. Maybe it hasn't. Maybe we're a simulation. Peace out.